$499,316.68. That's exactly how much money I spent on Meta ads to try and grow our With You program. And it gave us a return on ad spend of, one second, gave us a 5.6 return on ad spend for those first 6 months of the 2025 calendar year. And what I want to speak about in this video is just a few of the things that I learned in retrospect as I was going over the ads and just noticing, oh, this did well, or my perspective on this has changed. The first thing that I want to speak about, how to best position your offer to be different from others. Now, in previous videos, I've referred to this mechanism I use to pitch products and VSLs and ads, and also in the sales process, which I call the feedback story arc. And so the way the feedback story arc works is you have your offer and then you split it into two kind of core pillars. Pillar one and then pillar two. If it's a coaching or education product, it's typically like we teach you and then we support you, right? That's the typical way. And the way that you do the feedback story arc is you don't just say pillar one and pillar two, you say the reason pillar one exists, and then you fix it with pillar one. And then you say the good problem that pillar one creates, which is why you created pillar two. Now that sequence remains the same in the way that I view it. However, there's one thing that I've noticed I've always done for the last 8 years that I only just recently started noticing I was doing it unconsciously. So Jeremy Haynes is one of my mentors, big dog advertiser, much bigger than I am. And this week in the Inner Circle program, which he's been speaking about, which I'm a member in, he's been speaking about having unique mechanisms or processes in which you deliver your product or your service. He said that and I noticed, I was like, oh, I've always just done that without noticing. And whenever I haven't done that, like for other people's, I'm trying to do the ads for like other people's educational coaching programs, it didn't do as well. And then it was always like a messaging issue. Whereas I never had a messaging issue with like the Institute, never had a messaging issue with Industry Set, and I never had a messaging issue with You. And it's because they all, without knowing, I came up with, or at least in Industry Set's case, Jackson came up with a unique way to deliver the service. So for example, the Institute. So it's a DJ school where you learn to DJ clubs in a club during the day when it isn't being used by a resident DJ that probably DJs at that nightclub on the weekend when it's actually open. That's a very unique way as opposed to the traditional way, which is you just go on some dude's fucking living room and learn on Logitech speakers, right? The way that we did pillar one for the Institute was we noticed everyone was just learning in living rooms, and so we teach you in actual nightclubs instead. Right. Industry Set, we noticed that most people were fed up with, traditional music production education where they'd get put in a class of 30 with the exact same syllabus as everyone else that didn't take into account anything that they already knew or what their weaknesses were or what their highest points of leverage were, and they just had to learn the same thing as everyone else, and they didn't get as great results as they would in Industry Set as a result of it. And so in Industry Set, instead of being in a group fucking same syllabus setting, we tailor your syllabus based on your unique needs, and then all of your training is one-on-one, right? So it's like, we noticed everyone was sick of group classes, so we do it one-on-one. Same with You. We noticed that most business owners, pretty much all business owners, were fed up with done-for-you agencies where it took 2 months to onboard them and 2 months to see any results, if they got any fucking results at all. And so we just sit down with you for 2 days and build your ads and landing pages, then support you for 6 months afterwards. That's a very unique way to deliver the same outcome of generating leads. Now, pillar two and the way you position it remains the same. The way that I think of pillar two now is ever so slightly different. The way that I previously talked about pillar two was, okay, and then pillar one creates this good problem, and so we fix that good problem with pillar two. That can still remain the same, but another way you can think of pillar two is better utilizing and amplifying the results of pillar one. So for example, with the Institute, it was, you learn to DJ clubs in an actual club. Now you know how to DJ, you need to know how to get gigs, right? So it's just another way of thinking of it. It could be solving the good problem that pillar one creates, but it could also be better utilizing the potential that was created with pillar one. Just a slightly different way of thinking of it. The other thing that I want to speak about is just how impactful lazy advertising can be, and I call it chatvertising, which is, we already know with landing pages that not everyone looks at the entire landing page, right? So if this is the fold, 100% of people See what's above the fold? So most of your leverage is there. And the further down you scroll the landing page, you might get like, let's say 5% of people that actually get to the bottom. So what that means is the stuff you do down here is not nearly as effective or impactful as the stuff that you do up here. And so I've already spoken about this in the past with landing pages where like we just change some shit up here and it like triples the conversion rate. But this principle also applies to two other things. It also applies to your meta ad copy. If this is your primary text, and let's just say they can just see this before they have to click see more and reveal the rest of this. The number of times I've helped members in the With You program, and literally all I did was just remix the first sentence of their hook, and it had massive impacts on not just their quantity of leads, but the lead quality as well. It's insane. And I've been on the advisory call with them. I'm like, oh, just change this sentence. They're like, do I change anything else? I'm like, no, let's just change that and come back next week. And then they come back next week and their fucking cost per lead went from like $150 to $25 or something like that. And it's because 100% of people read this stuff before they click see more. And you can see from the click-through rate all, like most people don't even fucking click and read the rest of it. And so all the stuff you write down here is super like unimpactful. I was also unconsciously doing this because as I'm running the business and trying to grow the business, the advertising I'm trying to do as lazily as possible so I can just work on it for 5 minutes a fucking week. And so what I would do was you'll start noticing it in my ads. All I would do is you'll notice that most of my ads have like the same variation of like 3 different sets of body copy. And I just have a bunch of different hooks. And so what I'll do is whenever I got a new video ad from Aiden, I just duplicate an ad that's doing well and just change this section here. So the second thing it also applies to is your video ads. Now we already know this from viewer retention, right? Your view, like if this is the start, and this is obviously the end of your video, your viewer retention is probably gonna look like that. And so the most impactful statements is just what you say in the first 5 seconds, but most people get this wrong. What most people try and do in this first 5 seconds is just try and grab people's attention. They just try and grab anyone's attention. But what that often leads to is when you get anyone's attention, they won't listen to, let's say for example, you don't say that this is for service, well, I'll just say qualifier. You don't put your qualifying statement until 15 seconds in, and all you were worried about in the first 5 seconds was just trying to get people to pay attention. Well, now there's a bunch of people that didn't get here that are clicking, and you're sending bad traffic to the landing page. So you'll always notice in my ads, in the first 5 seconds, I say something either explicitly or implicitly that will prevent or at least reduce the people I don't want clicking from clicking. For example, I'll always, like With You isn't for e-commerce businesses. And so I'll say something to the effect of either mentioning like leads or pipeline or lead quality, or I'll just explicitly say service-based business owners that need to generate leads. I won't talk about just broadly saying grow the business, because if you talk about like grow the business, and this is the pie chart of everyone that it could apply to, it applies to literally fucking every business on earth. And what we need to talk about, like every business on earth wants to grow. And if you don't, you're a fucking coward, right? We need to get the segment of people that need conversations with leads. And so I need to make a statement that only speaks to these people. And so rather than just trying to grab attention in your first 5 seconds, you still need to grab attention, but more importantly, you need to filter. So the people that you don't want clicking, listen to it and go, oh, this isn't for me, and they just keep scrolling. Another thing that I want to speak about, I don't need the whiteboard for it, is often With You members will really, really overthink their ads. And I noticed that when I was observing it, and then I noticed that I didn't do this myself. It's just like another one of those things that I kind of just like did it without thinking. You can basically just film the exact same ad in just different words. I had a member in and they had one ad angle that was doing really, really well. I think it was for a podcasting studio, and it called out like ADHD entrepreneurs or something like that. And he's like, well, I already used the ADHD entrepreneurs. I'm like, yes, and it works, so just fucking use it again. And then I realized I've just been talking about my hook, which is relying on word of mouth in just different ways for like 5 years. I didn't go, oh, you already talked about relying on word of mouth in that ad from 2 years ago. You got to come up with a new idea. It's like, no, you can say the same thing over and over and over again. I filmed ads in the Sydney workshop. You probably agree, I said the same fucking thing all 4 times, didn't I? I basically said, I'm in Sydney right now, and the basic formula was, I'm in Sydney right now in a workshop. I had to keep my voice down because everyone behind me is building their Google ads. After today, they get this, this, and this, and then they get AI branded. I basically just said the exact same fucking thing in slightly different words in different parts of the room. Another thing that I'll speak about as well is this was a very niche problem to me specifically, but whenever me and Aiden were filming ads, I always filmed them sitting here. They all look pretty much the same. If you just got the first frame of every single video, they all look very, very similar. It's the same background, I'm wearing the same shirt. And so what was happening was my cost per lead was going up because people were just like seeing, oh, it's in the very first frame, they can go, this guy again, and then just scroll past it. Even though in the first 3 seconds, I would say something slightly different, in the first millisecond, in the first frame, they go, this guy again, and you'll just keep scrolling. And so what I did to mitigate that was in the Sydney workshop, that's why I filmed them all in different parts of the room, because it's just, like if you just got the first frame, they all look ever so slightly different. It's a little bit of a pattern interrupt rather than filming in the exact same spot. Oh, another thing that I learned, which is pretty niche to me, you will experience it at scale, was whenever I ran testimonial ads, they would do okay, but they wouldn't do as well as the ads with me in them. And so what I did was, and the way Aiden edits the ads is, they'll have one of the sales reps might interview a member for a case study, but when people are scrolling, they don't usually pay attention to the where you logo and see who it's from. And so someone will be doing a testimonial, but they wouldn't know what it's about. And so Aiden will just edit me into the bottom half and they'll just go, oh, if you just got the first frame, you'd be able to see, oh, that's the person that talks about his marketing program and this person must be doing a testimonial for it. And they can just immediately make that connection. And so whenever we just stopped running testimonials on their own and we just showed me in the very first frame, they could make that instantaneous connection. And it ties back to all this stuff of just lazy advertising, which is just putting all the stuff at the very front end. What's the stuff you can change at the top of the landing page because it's the most impactful? What can you change in the very first frame of, not even the first 3 seconds, the first frame of the ad so it's immediately recognizable? How can you change the primary text? And so all in all, I was right in the fucking first place. Advertising is the way to go. You can do lazy advertising with basic bitch strategies and it will still outperform all these fucking nerdy marketing dorks. Aiden just reminded me I always had to end my YouTube videos with a call to action, so there's probably a link for something in the description if you want to start advertising yourself.